You familiar with trauma, historical trauma, how that works? I don't really want to talk about the mechanics of that so much, but as part of healing, coming to terms with it can be helpful. When somebody experiences a trauma, it can cause great damage, even excessive levels of prolonged stress. We've been learning now that, this happens with all sentient life, from the monarch butterflies, which go on epic 3,000-mile-long voyages with multiple metamorphoses. It's not learned behavior. Something happens in the DNA. But it's really part of the epigenetic carriage that goes on top of the DNA. It's the environmental stimulus that still gets passed forward over time. Same with the sea turtles that know to go out to sea rather than upland. There's lots in the science around this too. Keep that in the back of your head for 1 second. When somebody experiences a trauma, especially as a child, the natural fight, flight, and freeze type responses are harder to activate because they are small. If they fight, they're outmatched. If they flight, someone's going to bring them back. If you think about the human brain, like this is our fight, flight, freeze stuff, wrapped around it, your wise owl prefrontal cortex, the newest part of the human brain. And when you get a stress or trauma stimulus, boom, this goes offline. Deer jumps in front of the car, this has to go offline. Step on the brakes, saves your life. Someone's coming in, ready to hurt you, this goes offline, run. So you need it to be able to do that. If you have 5 adverse childhood experiences, this happens so much, it replumbs your brain and stuff starts to happen. A little bit of stress is okay. That's the kind that says, I'm going to get up, roll out of bed, and give her a go today. Prolonged stress can be tolerable, although not ideal. That's the kind that says, I'm going to grind this out and finish up my college degree. But overwhelming stress or trauma cause great damage. And it happens in predictable ways. Hyperarousal, which is angry, agitated, emotionally reactive. That is the fight response. And the exact opposite, hypoarousal, which is spaced out, zoned out, disengaged. The hyperarousal is, hey, Johnny, come on in. It's time for your test today. What you coming at me like that for? Throw the chair. Or the hypoarousal, hey, Johnny, come on in. It's time for your test. Huh? Gabor Mate and other researchers have found links between trauma and ADHD, and between trauma and addiction. And the reasons are, it doesn't have to be your trauma. It can be that of a parent or grandparent. By the way, all of us human beings have trauma in our tree. You go far enough back, everyone's clunking someone over the head with a club. However, some groups, you think about the black experience with the transatlantic slave trade. You think about the native experience with genocide, boarding schools, things like this. There are periods of intense trauma when this is just going. And so today it doesn't just pop up, as it does with any of us, in unexplained depression or self-destructive behavior. It can happen to anybody. But it pops up in some groups like popcorn. And there's just more to deal with. It's why looking at not just the governmental systems, but the systemic nature throughout history of advantaging and disadvantaging certain groups by race and all kinds of other things have cascading effects to this day. The rats, when you put the electrode into the pain center of the brain and give them a pain stimulus at the same time that you introduce the smell of apple blossoms, not only will that rat be scared of apple blossoms the rest of its life, but the children and grandchildren of that rat with no pain stimulus will also be scared of apple blossoms. It's not just genetics, otherwise all rats would always be scared of apple blossom smells. It is epigenetics. It comes from an environmental stimulus, but it still goes forward through time. And there are lots of questions. We got more questions than answers. Think about native people being chased around in the 1800s by soldiers with blue uniforms and guns. And today we police them with people with blue uniforms and guns. And then we wonder, why are some of these folks emotionally reactive and agitated in a routine traffic stop instead of calmly responsive? Well, we should experiment with the things, including even something as simple as a different colored uniform or whatever. I'm not saying that that'll fix all the big things, but to create safer space so we can move forward. ADHD is hyperarousal to hypoarousal, right? Periods of intense hyperfocus and then spaced out, lost in my TikTok feed. By the way, plenty of trauma in my family tree. Father was a Holocaust survivor, mother went through a lot. I'm doing great. I'm doing all right. And I do have some stuff to navigate, you know. My wife's like, we're signing the kid up for softball. Equipment package, $500. What? There's emotionally reactive hyperarousal. I know enough to try to catch myself, don't always do a great job. We co-regulate relational health. And so it's like, baby, it's me here. Okay, time out. Okay, of course the kid can do softball. But dang, can we find some that played against sports? Because, you know, okay. And I'm totally lost in my TikTok feed. You know, barely made it here today. So that's the ADHD piece and the addiction piece. When people have been through a lot of trauma, they desperately crave safety. They know logically and objectively that using and boozing is not going to make them safer. But while under the influence, can numb out just for a bit so you don't have to feel so unsafe. It's not bad people, not that it's a recommended pathway. And so seeing the humanity of what did you go through? Somebody in addiction, like let's say alcohol addiction, can heal to the point where they can walk into a bar and order a burger and not fall off the wagon. Especially if they are connected maybe to the person walking into the bar with them, or to their higher power, or to their cultural practice, or their community, or even the person working at the bar. So we need to tend to safety. And safety, I love what Gabor Mate has to say, safety is not the absence of threat, it is the presence of connection. Safety is not the absence of threat, but the presence of connection. And what is connection? And it's so many things. It could be engaging with your indigenous language revitalization community or ceremony. It could be something in your own faith community, your family. There's no one size fits all. But fostering healthy connection, the relational health, is critical